Welcome to A Girl, a Guy, and a Buffy podcast, Small Bites edition. I'm your co-host, Kate Balzer.
And I'm Charles Swint. So our small bites episodes are discussions we had in the main episode that didn't quite fit the overall conversation, but we still wanted to share with you all.
We hope you enjoy these tasty conversational bites. We promise, no angry puppy scars from listening.
So not all men in the Buffyverse are monsters, like we discussed in our last episode, in our main episode, but there are some positive examples of masculinity in the Buffyverse.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of like positive, what is, positive masculinity? What are, behaviors of the good examples in general and in the series? I think it's being like anything else, like a fully actualized human. It's not, thinking you have to live up to some stereotype. It's, I think, knowing yourself, but it's also about being a good human and accepting consequences for your actions, for apologizing. I don't think when we look at the characters that we want to hold up as positive examples, it's not about being perfect. I mean, these are certainly going to be flawed characters in some ways because they're human. We're all flawed. There is no such thing as perfection. Although I suppose if you believe in a deity, you believe that's the only perfect being in the world. But for us humans, there is no such thing as perfection. We can only just strive to be better and better. What about you? Like if you're
Speak
thinking
for
about
yourself. I am perfection. Just ask my mother.
I should have known.
No, even my mom would be like, "Oh, you got problems." She's the first to tell me, actually. And like the
That's
most
kind of what your mom
loving,
is for, isn't it? I
right?
mean,
And
mom
like
in
the
general,
most,
not yours specifically.
yes, no, actually, my mom's job is to tell everybody. I mean that in the best way. I love my mom.
Of course.
She's fantastic. She keeps me honest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but so what are your
I
when you think of a positive masculinity?
I mean, I think that it's one of those things too where you have to, it's all the things that you said. It's the accountability, it's the showing up when things get
Mm,
hard, it's the integrity, it's the doing the right thing even when the easier thing is hard to do. And it's also acknowledging your flaws and acknowledging
mhm,
them and being like, yeah, that's a flaw of mine, and then actually taking the steps to work through and and trying to figure out how to counteract those things or how to find the balance in all of it
mhm. Yeah.
when you're doing it, because I mean, and sometimes that's half the fun, like is figuring out how to get through all of that stuff. It's not always easy, but it can be kind of fun. Because the alternative sucks. Like being a shitty person
True.
is just bad. So when you get to the other side, you're like, oh, this is way better than being a horrible human being.
Yes, yes. I get what you're saying now.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's more worth it to work through whatever the hard parts are because you'll be better for it in the end. You'll be happier for it in the end. People
right.
around you'll be. But yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
The work
Um,
isn't always fun. That
yeah.
part's not no walk in the park, but
Yeah. That's why it's called work, right?
yeah, but the
Uh,
results are better.
yeah. Yeah. The other thing too, I would say is it's also about allowing the people around you to be themselves. It's not just about you. I'll kind of jump into our first example to use as a example of that, and that would be Giles. And we've brought this up before, but again, like Giles telling Buffy he's not there to judge her at the end of, was it Surprise? I always get which one's first, Surprise and Innocence. After everything has gone down with Angelus and he's dropping her off at home at the very end of the episode. Again, it's like not only one of my favorite Giles moments, but like one of my favorite moments from the show. And that's, him showing up, as you said, and being supportive, for Buffy.
Yeah, I mean, he does that, I think, very much through the beginning. I mean,
Mm,
just realizing who she is as a person and recognizing her as a person and not as a slayer, I
mm,
think is one of his biggest strengths, so that he allows her to be Buffy without taking the Buffy out of the Slayer and using that as her strength and being like, oh, this is an asset. This isn't, where the council tries to make her feel like who she is not enough.
yeah.
Giles has always seen who she is as, as her greatest asset and her greatest
Hmm.
weapon in her arsenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say too, like, I mean, if you've listened to any of our past episodes, particularly the episode we did in discussing the Buffy Giles relationship, where I get all angry about him in season 6 and 7 and very disappointed in him, I think because I love him so much, because I love their relationship in those early seasons, he even more disappointed me when he feels like he doesn't step up for. That's not because of toxic masculinity. Like, I think, he's still a great example of masculinity. That's just him as a human being making mistakes that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold him accountable because of him being, male or anything to do with like toxic masculinity, as I said.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because there are some instances in the show that you have to sort of navigate, and that's one of those instances where I have to navigate. It's not about his character, it's about the writing. The writing of
Hmm.
that is really bad. There
Yeah.
are other ways to have written him off the show
Yeah.
for him to come back or whatever and do that without it being like, I'm leaving you now after you've been resurrected because I think you need to grow up. Like that lesson, quote unquote lesson, is insane. It's ridiculous. It's the wrong lesson. And so it's terrible. It's terrible. And I think that's more writing than it because it doesn't even feel like Giles. Like it doesn't feel like that's something that Giles would do, especially considering how upset she was when he poisons her. Or,
Hmm.
on any of those times where they have, like, he always comes back, he's always there. And yes, he wants to step away from the show. And so you're leading into these things of Giles wanting to leave and do all of that stuff, which
Right.
is fine. But yeah, yeah, that section is
If you
always
want to hear that full discussion, go
right.
listen to Buffy
Please go
Giles
listen.
episode from season 3.
We won't get into that because we're talking about positive examples,
Right, right, right.
of that. And I think, also a positive example is that Giles sort of opens himself up to because he doesn't have to accept the other Scoobies. Like he
Hmm.
doesn't have to like try to have as good a relationship with them as that they are not his charges, but he opens himself up to take on those people because he does see, again, he sees the value in them. Even Xander, he's good at he's good at getting donuts. He's let himself be open to all of that, and I think that that's really great. And when Buffy breaks up with Angel, Angel dumps her, and he's right there to lend a hand, and he recognizes those milestones of a
Hmm.
young girl's life, and he really wants to be there, for Buffy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The other one I just was thinking about is his how he is with Anya in relation to the magic box,
Oh
and that
yeah.
he realizes like, when in those early days when he's overwhelmed by the business and realizes Anya has a good sense of business, he immediately hires her, that he really begins to rely on her and she really becomes a partner in the business until he transfers the shop over to her when he leaves in season 6. And what I love about that is like he's sort of like everyone else. He does, roll his eyes at her and thinks, her being overly truthful and overly blind, he's just as like intolerant of it as the rest of the Scoobies. And yet that doesn't prevent him from partnering with her in business and realizing, that she's got a good head for that and that makes sense for him to work with her. And I think he grows, to respect her and admire her as the more they work together.
Yeah, and I think that part of that you can see that in Tabula Rasa. Like when
Mhm.
you like them all losing their memories doesn't sort of like take away the true feelings of the nature of their relationships with each other. And
Yeah.
so I think that they're like on some level, I think that there is, not necessarily a sexual attraction, but there is a sense of partnership. There is a sense of like togetherness there. And if I'm going to go down that route, then I think that at some level, Giles actually sort of respects Spike in a little way and has a bit of like, I don't like you, but you gotta, but you've been here fighting the fight. You've been there. And so I can never say this to you, but on some level, thank you.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of Watchers, we have Wesley, who is a good man. Wesley is a
Yeah.
good man who, again, is flawed because he is just following orders and he's trying to do everything by the book. This is his first gig out. Like, he was head boy. He's gotta, do. he's got to do the thing and like make everybody proud because no one is ever proud of Wesley,
Right.
and so this is his opportunity. And, I wonder how much of it was the council sending him there to succeed or to fail.
That's a really great point. I mean, I could see very much he's being sent there to fail and maybe even report back, be a spy more than a true watcher. But I think that shows you the core of who he
Hmm.
is even though he's a rule follower and by the book, he is still human. And, he doesn't let the teachings of the council overrule his humanity, his morality, his ethics,
Right.
in dealing with the Slayers. And then, when he's fired and he's at, what feels like hit rock bottom, he steps up to help support the team to take on the mayor. And it's like, what can I do?
Yeah. Other than, what does he say? Other than
Run
like
away
a
and scream like a
little
girl? Is
girl.
that
Yeah. So yeah, but he is ultimately, I think, a good person because he does. He apologizes. He
Mhm.
recognizes that he made a mistake, and he comes crawling back to the right side and being like, I messed up, and I really want to help, and and make this right in any way that
Yeah.
I can.
And I
Um,
think he really wants to help Faith when
mhm,
he brings in the council. Again, he just doesn't have the experience and the backbone yet to see that that's not the right way to deal with Faith. But I do think it comes from a place of wanting to help and knowing
yeah.
she's in a dark place.
And that's protocol, and it's what you're
Right,
supposed to
right.
do. Like, this is what we're supposed to do. And aren't we the good guys? So why are we not following the rules if we are the good guys? So from his point of view, it totally makes sense that
Yeah.
you would,
Yeah.
do that.
Well, and there's a validity to protocols. I mean, oftentimes they're put in place for a reason because something bad did happen. After a while, those protocols can become the most inhibiting thing because they don't get updated, for whatever, however the culture changes. But so, yeah, again, just to back up what you said, like you can understand why he follows protocol.
Yeah. And it just gets him in trouble.
Definitely in the Buffyverse.
Well, yeah. And then there's Robin Wood.
Yeah, he's our third example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't get a ton of time with him, but he is like he does come off as like a good man. I think he cares. He seems like he's certainly a good principal. He's trying to do the right thing. I think some of like the his questionable behavior in the beginning is because they didn't know what direction he was going to go in. Is he going to turn out to be a bad guy? Is he going to be working for the first? And then once they realize how they were going to use him, I think we get a even better sense of like his character is and who he is as a man.
Yeah. I mean, and even as a principal, I mean, even as the principal of the school, he was a way better principal than Flutie
Yeah.
or Snyder. But I mean, and
Well, I think
dealing with coming from a different point of view too, because if you think about it, like Flutie just doesn't know what's going on.
yeah.
Arguably, and even I think Shimmerman said this in a panel, if I remember correctly, that he said that he doesn't know what's going on. But I don't think the text confirms that. I think the text confirms that he does know what's going on,
He does.
and it's why he was hired, was because he could handle this kind of thing and, making up the excuses, and it was willing to toe the line
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Flutie is like has a good heart, is a good principal who
Hmm.
doesn't realize like who's at least it seems that way, doesn't realize what's really going on in the town. Snyder very much knows what's going on, and he's just a miserable man who really should not be working with
Right.
children. And that's probably why he was hired. He was hired more as like to watch over, the activities and watch over the Slayer and her team.
Mhm.
And then you get Robin, who I think because of his age and because of his experience, is a much more warm, welcoming principal.
Yeah. Well, and I think he says he maneuvered himself into that position so that
Yeah,
he could serve as a protector of that school, as
yeah,
opposed to the others who were trying to, where Snyder was trying to protect his own self-interest in his relationship with the mayor,
Right.
and Flutie, who just didn't know anything needed to be, he just wanted to protect the students and was like, I just want to be a good principal, but he comes in with an agenda, and he comes in, to be a guardian of the Hellmouth.
Yeah.
Which, again, like his actions and his deeds, prove that he is a good man. Aside from the spike of it all, and that's a very easy thing to be like, of course he's upset. Of course he would want to
Right.
take revenge on it. Was it dumb? Yeah, sure, but
Oh, yeah.
completely understandable. Like, I totally get it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not an example of like toxic masculinity.
Right.
That's just someone who's been through something horrible. And when you're confronted with the creature that killed your mother,
Yeah, of course
I
you're
mean,
gonna
who
like
wouldn't? Yeah, especially in that world. It's not like you're confronting another like regular human being who, murdered her.
right.
It's a whole different sort of situation. And then I think too, the other great example we have of him is the way he is with Faith.
Yeah.
That, he kind of sees who she is and isn't willing to put up with some of her barriers and some of her habits. And it's like, look, this can be more. I can show you more. I mean, whether you believe in that, it can feel a little quick.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like, pulling this out at the end of the season, but I still like how it presents him as a man and as a human being.
yeah, that at least he's willing to explore the relationship and see
Yeah.
what's possible, whether it lasts or not is,
Right.
is irrelevant. But
Right.
but at least it gives us the sense that he was not in it just for right now. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't just a one-off thing for him.
Yeah, and it's not clear how much he knows about her past or not, but let's say he knows even a little bit, like certainly the fact that she was in prison, you got to give him props for him not holding that over her. Like he still treats her as like a human being.
Yeah, a very
Yeah, and I mean, I love
enthusiastic
oh, sorry,
a
say that
very
again.
enthusiastic one.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say one of my favorite scenes of theirs is the one in the high school basement when they're
Yep.
prepping the entrances and like, no, I'm prettier than you. And she's like, what?
There is
And
no way you're
you definitely get the vibe that like he is what she needs to challenge her in a
Yeah.
relationship.
and then he can hold his own
Yes,
with
and he can
her.
hold
Yeah.
his own.
He could give as good as he gets, and
Right.
I don't
And
think
he
she's
won't put
used
up
to
with
it.
her, some of her like behaviors that put up barriers
Yeah,
to not make real connections with people.
right. So
Any other examples that we didn't cover of?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think we have so many examples of Giles being a good guy. I mean, even looking at like his relationship with Jenny and all of that stuff, and
Mhm.
even when that went south and sour, and him trying to make amends and feel, there maybe there is a thing of being too good. I don't know. Like, he was just trying really, really hard to like
Yeah.
make things right. When you can't. But, I think the show gives us some really good examples of
Mhm.
like what a good man can look like, and it gives us those examples of what, bad toxic behavior looks like. So if we're paying attention and we're watching, then we can really see and distinguish the things between what is a good man, one of these mistakes, and one is this like toxic behavior.
Right, right, absolutely. Well, and I think what's interesting too is when looking at our three examples, they're all adults
Yeah,
and they're all human adults. So, it was really that masculinity as the monster was really focused on the teens, young adults, and the demons. So showing that like, your regular grown-up men can behave like,
right.
positively and as good human beings.
Yes, indeed. They are out there
Yeah, we can
doing
use a few
this.
more examples in the show, but at least we got these three good ones.
And in real life.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, and as we said, some of the not so good examples did become good or better examples as we discussed in the main episode. So there is that hope as well.
Yes, there's hope for us all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, great. Thank you all so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Bites. Let us know your thoughts about the episode by leaving a review or rating us wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Buffy Podcast and email us at abuffypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.